Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and what is the largest franchise in the world? Would you guess the MCU, Marvel, Star Wars, James Bond, Harry Potter? Well, you'd be wrong with all of those guesses. If you don't actually know, it's Pokemon. Believe it or not, Pokemon, Pocket Monsters, Japanese trading card game, video games, anime, it's got bed sheets, magazines. It is the biggest, highest grossing franchise in the world by a large margin too. Second place, by the way, actually Hello Kitty. That shocked me. And it notably trails by a few $1 billion. That's billion with a B. So for anyone that follows Pokemon, like myself, you would know that they're retiring Ash in the anime. That's right, main character from our childhood, who we have grown up, well, not really grown up with, since he never grew up, but we have grown up to watch him stay the same age and go on misadventure after misadventure with Pikachu and the gang. He is no longer going to be in the show. They are retiring his character and effectively starting fresh. Or are they? I have found an interesting little article here from Go Nintendo. Japanese voice actor for Ash says the character has more adventures ahead. This is an update to an existing article. Now, I did not read the original article, so I don't know what the update could be, but it is major news, especially for folks of my generation who have grown up with Pokemon as a staple. Even broken, busted games like Scarlet and Violet sold buku bucks. So, yeah, let's go through here and see if maybe Ash isn't gone after all. Update. We have a more nuanced translation that reads a bit differently, thanks to Push Dustin for reaching out. Okay, so, again, this is the Japanese voice actress. It goes without saying, the information was probably in Japanese. I do appreciate that they're updating it with maybe more context than originally was given due to translation errors. Let's go through here. I believe Rika Matsumoto's latest comments about any poke have been lost in context. Her last statement basically equates to, if Ash's journey continues, then I will continue to voice him. It should not be read as a direct confirmation that Ash will continue to appear. Alright, so let's read the original story now that we have this context. Pokemon Co. rocked the world last week when they revealed that the Pokemon anime as we know it is coming to an end. Ash would see his journey come to a close, paving the way for an all-new series in early 2023. We've seen English voice actors from Ash comment on the situation, but it's the statement from Ash's Japanese voice actor that's the most interesting. Over in Japan, Ash has been portrayed from the start by Rika Matsumoto. Following the news of Ash's series coming to an end, Matsumoto took to Twitter with the following statement. Ash has been an ever-reliable presence in our hearts, even since he set off from Pallet Town. It's a promise, we'll always be together. Ash still has more adventures ahead of him, to be continued. That statement has left Pokemon fans buzzing. Is it nothing more than wishful thinking, or will we really see more of Ash in the future? Matsumoto isn't elaborating on her statement, so I guess we'll just have to keep our fingers and toes crossed. This is a relatively short article. But the reason I wanted to cover it, aside from I wasn't sure what it was because I have opinions on Ash leaving Pokemon. But they're mixed opinions, so I've actually considered making this video for the last several days and hadn't gotten around to it because I didn't know how I thought about it, or what I thought of it, or how to present it. And part of me still doesn't, but I figured with this article and this information, maybe it would help give me some clarity. While it didn't give me any sort of clarity, I at least want to point out my two point of views, and maybe explain why I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. The very first movie I ever went to see in theaters with my father was Pokemon the movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. I've grown up with Veronica Taylor's Ash, was even turned off to the series when the voice acting changed after 4 Kids lost the rights. Ash, to me, is Pokemon. He's just as much Pokemon as Pikachu or as the games. I grew up playing the trading card game. I've actually thought about getting back into it after a good 15-year hiatus, considering how seriously I take Magic the Gathering, but don't know how much has changed. It can't be as bad as Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten, but that's neither here nor there. So I was disheartened to hear Ash was leaving. If the series has worked for 20 years with him, why change? Especially when it's actually relatively recently had reboots. They went ahead a few years ago for, I believe, Black and White. Maybe it was the Sun and Moon anime. Either way, they changed the canon. They basically started the story over, but still with Ash. There were some contradictions, though, because at times it would reference previous events in the anime that, by all accounts, shouldn't have happened since it was a new canon. Like when Ash meets up with, it was Brock or Misty, whichever, and they talked about previous adventures. So, the Pokemon timeline, yeah, has been kind of a mess, but that's just something that almost 30-year-old screwheads like me would notice, when this is a kid's anime. You're not exactly going to find Pokemon on Adult Swim or Crunchyroll in the MA section or anything like that. So if it's been working for 20 years, if he's a notable icon, why change it? I wasn't happy with that because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then I also thought about it. It's been 20 years. Why not change it? People, to my knowledge, aren't watching the series for Ash. I mean, yeah, Ash has his own personality and whatnot, but at the end of the day, he is just a placeholder for us to put ourselves into, or for children to put themselves into, so that they can imagine themselves running through the world, collecting these little beasties, battling, making friends. Now, the game does a much better job of this, what with early games limiting you to just putting the name you want in, even if there technically is a canonical name, with later games letting you choose male or female, to games now letting you choose male, female, skin color, you can change your outfits. Pokemon has always progressively made it more and more about the person you are being the one in the adventure, which is a pretty Nintendo thing to do. I mean, the whole reason Link is named Link is because he is the link between you and the game. They want you to impart yourself on Link, so that you would feel like you were the one on the adventure. Pokemon is really no different. So maybe, just maybe, after 20 years, it is time to move to a different main character, just so that other individuals have a chance to impart themselves into that blank slate without the baggage of 20 years of Ash being the main character. Now, is this going to work? I mean, I assume so. Again, this is the largest franchise in the world. The franchise that makes the most money out of all franchises in the world. So, yeah, I don't see them just simply changing a single character and rebooting the franchise and it all going downhill. Because this is a reboot in name only. The concept of Pokemon has never changed and probably never will change because why fix when it ain't broken? It's been working since, what, 94? Almost 30 years now, and it's the highest grossing franchise in the world. I want to really drive that point home. That takes some doing. People want to talk about Marvel. They want to talk about Star Wars. But this little children's game and children's series and trading card game outranks it all by a lot. And now we also have, not only do we have the movies that were animated back in the day, but Detective Pikachu was the very first, in my opinion, good video game adaptation. I mean, maybe Warcraft, but definitely Detective Pikachu. So you also opened the realm to film, which probably has also helped Nintendo in doing things like the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie, when they saw the great reaction from Pokemon. It's too big to fail. Very few things are actually too big to fail, and Pokemon is one of them. So I understand it being disheartening that we're leaving Ash behind, but I don't think it's going to be crippling to the franchise, considering the anime is only a small portion of what makes up everything as a whole. Now, that being said, will the new series be good without Ash? It depends on how they create and make the main character. Their motivations, their personality. If they're just going to be another young kid who has a dream of being a Pokemon master, who wants to travel the world with their friends, and who has misadventures, and kind of a scampy personality, but their heart's always in the right place, well, then why do it? That's just Ash again, but with a different coat of paint. It's just not named Ash. It's Ash, but not Ash. But if you give the main characters something different, maybe they don't want to be a Pokemon master. Maybe they have some sort of tragic backstory and they're getting into Pokemon for a completely different reason. That's what Detective Pikachu did. The main character, he didn't want Pokemon. He didn't want to be a trainer. He found them to be more or less in the way in his life, and it's because it was tied to the history he had with his father. And regardless of what you think about the actor that portrayed him's acting ability, the concept on paper was cool and unique for Pokemon. And that's not the only time Pokemon's done cool, unique, one-off characters for their main storylines. Remember Pokemon Coliseum? You play as the bad guy, or at least former bad guy, somewhere maybe a gray anti-hero in the middle. You definitely work for the bad guy team at first, Team Snag'em. The game opens up with you betraying them, blowing their base up, and going on the run. You're stealing Pokemon. Granted, you're stealing them from other bad guys, but you're still stealing Pokemon throughout the game. So that right there is two instances of main characters in a Pokemon series entry that isn't just the standard, I want to be a master, go on an adventure. Even in the most recent Scarlet and Violet, you more or less have a choice of what you want your goal to be. Yeah, you have to, at the end of the day, to beat the game, complete all the main tasks, but since you're given the choice, you can choose what one means the most to you as the player. Are you the type of player that prefers just going after the gym badges and getting to the Elite Four? Are you invested in the emotional storyline of Arven and his pup? Do you want to help these bullies who really aren't actually bullies in the form of Team Star? So maybe if the show takes a more nuanced and less generic main character, it could find itself going down in the annals of Pokemon history as one of the greatest interpretations of the show that we've ever seen. I mean, Pokemon Origins pretty much did something similar with cutting out Ash and literally just being mostly a shot-for-shot representation of the Red and Blue games. That was awesome. I don't know. It is sad to see Ash go, but if they do it right, I think that this could open a whole new world to children that are much, much younger than myself to get into Pokemon. And I think that could be a plus. But the converse side of that is those children probably would have been fans of those Pokemon with Ash as the main character because they're children. They don't look hard into storytelling and philosophies and character development and world building. They want to see bright colors and see Pokemon battles and have fun. And hopefully they grow up to enjoy storytelling on a much deeper level that the seeds were planted with Pokemon. I know this didn't have a whole lot of anti-woke propaganda. It wasn't really news coverage. It was more my thoughts on a franchise that everyone and their grandmother always has their thoughts on. I mean, there is Pokemon YouTuber after Pokemon YouTuber, or even regular video game YouTubers play Pokemon games. The crossover is with every genre because it is such a massive franchise. So my 2 cents is just a little drop in the bucket, and maybe it gave you guys some new information and some new insight. Maybe it didn't. I'm not even sure what it did for me, but I wanted to put it out there. So please tell me in the comments below what you think about Ash Ketchum finally leaving Pokemon and about the possibility of him returning in the future. Also, please like this video and subscribe. I am really trying to grow this channel. While this isn't my normal type of content, you might be interested in the sort of content I normally do. And follow me on Twitter at BoltTheWord. Until then, this has been Words of Paradise.